You jolt awake beneath the suffocating velvet of a blindfold, the scent of mildew and rose oil clawing at your lungs. Somewhere above, iron hinges howl against winter wind, and a cascade of torchlight slashes through the darkness, hot, searing, merciless. Your wrists, raw from night-long bonds, throb in rhythm with the pounding hooves echoing across the courtyard stones. A princess should rise to harp music and sun-kissed silks. You rise to chains and the stink of your own fear. The blindfold is yanked away. Half the world vanishes with it, because half the world has always been missing. Your lone eye squints against flame-bright corridors, while the vacant socket, an empty crimson crater, burns with phantom pain. That is the price your mother paid to the royal physicians the night you were born. One mangled eye for a girl who was supposed to be a boy. The midwife called it an omen. The court astrologer whispered curse. By dawn the palace gossips dubbed you the Cyclops heiress, a title wrapped in silk yet lined with razors. Now, on the morning of your 16th winter in the kingdom of Vetterwick, an icy speck wedged between feuding empires, you are dragged from the Tower of Quiet Sorrows toward a destiny hand-stitched by men who value treaties over daughters. Every flag on every turret snaps like a whip, the crimson griffin of your father, King Odric the Stern. Down in the bailey, black-armored knights form a corridor of steel. They don't meet your gaze, looking at you as bad luck. Instead, they stare at the frost-crusted cobbles, lips muttering prayers you were born to answer with your life. You stumble. Chains rattle. Somewhere a raven screams. A steward shoves a parchment under your nose. The marriage contract that will barter your body, your blood, and the last shreds of your childhood to Prince Lothair of the Southern Marches. Lothair, the Butcher Prince, the man rumored to pickle the tongues of diplomats who bore him. The ink is still wet, glistening like fresh wounds. You can smell the acid of it. Your hand trembles, not from cold, but from the knowledge that those words are manacles no blacksmith can break. Sign, the steward hisses. Your mind flings itself backward, clawing for airier days. The secret garden where you once hid among foxgloves, dreaming that a single perfect rose would bloom in place of your missing eye. The library where old Master Marlowe taught you to read histories of queens who bent armies with their wit. But those pages close, replaced by the present's iron clasp. You lift the quill. You hesitate. Somewhere, deep in the castle's marrow, a clock driven by water and gears begins its measured drip, like the heartbeat of fate itself. A drop of ink falls. It spreads like night swallowing dawn. That tiny dark sun reminds you of prophecy. When night devours the eye of day, kingdoms will drown in their own blood. Your nanny whispered it to hush your childhood terrors. Now it roars. You glance sideways, your one glance, toward the portcullis. Beyond, snowflakes swirl like lost souls against the gray bone of the sky. Each flake lands and dies, nameless, quickly forgotten. The realization knifes through you. So will I. You scrawl your name. Princess Elara Odricson, first of her name, last of her line worth saving. The quill snaps in your fist, splattering ink across the steward's brocade. Gasps ricochet down the corridor. Your father steps forward, gaze colder than the steel of his crown. He does not hug you, he does not even nod. Instead, he utters the sentence that will echo long after tongues rot in southern jars. Remember, daughter, your duty outweighs your defects. Duty. Defects. The words lash you harder than any whip. Yet beneath the sting, a strange ember flickers, wrath. Not at him alone, but at blood, that treacherous river whose currents no one can swim against. A thought, sharp as a stiletto, pierces. What if I can? What if one-eyed weakness becomes single-minded weapon? The chains loosen. The ceremony of surrender begins. Priests in snow-damp robes chant blessings that taste like ashes. Courtiers cluster like vultures, wagering on how long you'll survive Lothair's court. A hush falls. Out of the hush rolls a gilded carriage shaped like a coffin set on wheels, its sides carved with scenes of martyr queens. As guards shove you toward it, the scent of rose oil thickens. You realize it isn't perfume. Lothair's last bride was embalmed with roses. You climb the step. Inside, walls are padded in crimson velvet, soft as newly flayed flesh. There are no windows. If terror had a texture, it would be this. The doors slam, bolts thunk home. Darkness clamps over you, broken only by a single sliver of light seeping through a peephole, enough for your surviving eye to glimpse the world receding. You kneel, shackles biting bone, and press your forehead to the carriage floor. In that pitch-black cradle, your breath quickens until it sounds like another voice, a twin born of panic. You don't have to go quietly, it whispers. A missing eye sees more truth than two obedient ones. Outside, hooves crack ice. The carriage lurches. With each jolt, you feel destiny's jaws chew closer. Yet hidden in your boot is the shard of mirror you stole from the Tower of Quiet Sorrows, sharp enough to open veins or throats or locked futures. You palm it now cool and deadly. Your pulse drums a question louder than the priest's hymns. Is escape worth becoming the monster they already believe you to be? The carriage gathers speed. Trumpets blare farewell. Cheers rise like the howl of a distant storm. Inside your velvet coffin, you clutch the mirror shard until blood beads at your fingertips. Somewhere in that blood hides every untold possibility. Somewhere outside, the prophecy watches. And somewhere very near, a hinge in fate creaks, waiting for one decisive push. What she uncovered next would shake 2 kingdoms to their knees. The coffin carriage thunders southward through a corridor of leafless oaks, their skeletal branches clawing at the dawn like beggars demanding alms of light. Inside, the air grows staler with every mile. Warm breath, cold dread, metallic tang of your own blood where the mirror shard bites. You strain to hear the outer world. Guard horses snorting, bridles jingling, a captain barking formation changes whenever the road narrows. But beneath those martial rhythms lurks something else, a low, resonant moan carried on the wind, as though the forest itself laments the bargain sealed in ink. A sudden swerve hurls you against the velvet wall. Pain blooms along your ribs. Instinct flares. Were the wheels sabotaged? Did some secret ally of yours? No, you have no allies. Try to rescue you with a bandit strike? You press your eye against the peephole. Through its pinhole lens the world tilts. A ribbon of frozen river, armored riders spurring forward, and up ahead, a narrow stone bridge slick with frost. There is no ambush, only a perilous crossing that forces the escort into single file. Your pulse leaps. A single file means a momentary stretch where guards cannot easily circle back. You remember Master Marlowe's chess lessons. Knights are lethal, but a narrow board hamstrings them. If you act, it must be there. You draw the mirror shard into view. Moon pale, dagger thin, it reflects the lone blue ember of your eye, an eye that has watched tutors bow, ladies recoil, and your own father sign you away like surplus grain. Why should that I not also witness blood? The carriage lurches onto the bridge. Stones clack beneath iron-rimmed wheels. Outside, water foams against pylons, black and vicious, hungry for anything that falls. You drag 3 slow breaths through clenched teeth, then wedge the shard between 2 velvet tufts to free your hands. Chain links pool in your lap. The steward bound you only with ceremony's fetters, easy to slip when you know the trick. You do, because last night, you bribed the jailer with the promise of naming him in a ballad. Men die for legends, they also betray for them. Fetters gone, you press your shoulder to the carriage door. The latch is external, but the hinges are inside, 3 brass pins hammered through oak. A mirror shard can pry brass. Master Marlowe again. A door is merely an argument. Remove the commas and the sentence falls apart. You wedge the glass tip beneath the top hinge pin and lever. Wood creaks. Sweat rivers down your spine despite the cold. Each scrape of metal feels louder than church bells. You pause whenever hoofbeats clatter too near, resuming only as distance stretches. Pin 1 loosens, slides free, clinks to the floor like a dropped coin of fate. 2 more. Midway through the second, the carriage jerks to a halt. Shouts. Boots pounding earth. You freeze, hand tight around the shard. Through the peephole you glimpse the cause. A patrol riding north, banners of the Blackthorn League. Mercenaries whose loyalty is auctioned monthly. Their leader, a scar-cheeked woman astride a piebald stallion, raises a gauntlet fist. Words drift back. King's business? Prove it. Tension crackles like fire in dry reeds. Your escort captain unfurls a vellum writ. The scarred woman leans to read, lips moving. Then, in a gesture arrogant as dawn, she rips the document in half and scatters pieces into the river below. Roads ours till sunset, she growls. Swords hiss from scabbards. A standoff on a bridge too narrow for retreat. Precisely the chaos a captive might exploit. Your heartbeat becomes war drums. You coax the second pin free. It drops into your palm warm as prey. 1 hinge left. Outside, steel rings on steel, testing, threatening. The scarred woman's mercs fan out, crossbows leveled at the royal column. You taste iron, fear or anticipation you cannot tell. A guard shouts, hold formation. But the column can't widen. The bridge funnels them like fish into a net. You angle the shard under the final pin, twisting, pleading in silence for brass to surrender. It does, inch by grinding inch. When it finally slides loose, the door sagged inward, hanging now on nothing but habit. Below, the river roars approval. You shoulder the panel. It yawns open to knife-edge daylight. Icy wind punches your lungs, your gown whips around your legs. 30 feet down, water churns, a maw of shattered mirrors. One leap could snap bone, drag you under weighted skirts. Alternatively, you could sprint across carriage roofs, vanish in the forest while soldiers focus on mercs. But the bridge offers no parapet, only sheer drops. Choice slices you, drown or dare. Then you notice the scarred captain's eyes shift, past your escort, to the carriage. She knows important cargo rides within. Ransom? Leverage? The prospect sharpens her greed. She spurs forward. That movement tears the fragile détente. Arrows streak, swords clash. Screams rip the air like parchment. You decide. With a war cry that shocks your own ears, half battle, half birth, you fling yourself out. Mid-air wind roars, gown billows, chain clinks like trailing specters. You land on the carriage roof, knees buckling on slick lacquer. Pain. You scramble upright. Merc crossbowmen gape, royal archers curse. Neither side expected prey atop the wagon. A bolt thunks inches from your foot. You sprint. Hoofbeats drum below, bridge stones blur. Ahead, the horses pulling your prison rear, panicked by shrieks and steel. You leap from roof to rump of the lead mount, snagging its crupper. The stallion screams, bucking. You cling, slide across steaming flank, and drop to the bridge planks, free of chains, inches from death. Chaos shields you. Soldiers hack, mercenaries lunge, arrows fly like frantic starlings. You duck beneath a flailing halberd, grab the fallen writ half torn and use it, ridiculous weapon, to slap the horse's flank. It bolts, scattering knights. In the opportune gap you dive toward the bridge's edge, where a single storm-felled oak leans against the parapet like a broken ladder. You clamber, fingers numb, bark icy. Behind, voices roar. Princess loose. They call you princess when they crave obedience. They'll call you traitor when you refuse. Titles are shackles too. You reach the tree's crown, step onto cracking limbs, and leap. Branch whips snap against your face as you plunge into a drift of bramble and snow on the riverbank far below the bridge's lip. White paint explodes, thorns tattoo your arms. But you are alive, lungs heaving frost, heart rattling like dice cup predicting fate. Above, on the bridge, silhouettes swarm, some falling, some fleeing. The carriage teeters, axle severed by stray blade, then tips slow as an hourglass. It crashes into the river, splintering with a thunderclap. Velvet coffin becomes flooded tomb for the future they plotted. You roll onto your back, snowflakes pricking flushed skin, and laugh, a raw, fierce sound that startles even the river. For the first time since birth, destiny is a field without fences. Yet freedom's price is pursuit. Already hounds bay on the far bank, catching your scent. Clutching your mirror shard, symbol of what is broken and what can cut, you stagger to your feet and vanish into the frost-blind forest, where no banner yet claims the trees. Snow swallows your boots to the ankle as you shove deeper into the forest, each breath a needle in your lungs. Dawn has bled into gray noon, and the light filtering through fir boughs looks bruised, as though the sky itself took a beating on the bridge. Behind you, horns bray, 3 short blasts, a pause, 1 long. Royal pursuit code for recover the asset alive. Alive means shackled, paraded, bartered. Dead would be simpler, you think, but simplicity died with the carriage. You skid down a ravine glazed in ice. A fox darts across your path, stops, fixes you with amber eyes that seem to say wrong kingdom, wrong season, wrong species, then vanishes. Somewhere overhead a hawk screams. The sound rips a shiver along your spine. Predators announce themselves only when they have nothing to fear. By a fallen cedar you pause to inventory your world. Torn gown, frost-slick hair, wrists ringed with bruises, mirror shard, half-destroyed marriage writ tucked under your sash, and an education in diplomacy nobody valued. No food, no fire striker, no allies, yet an ember of rage radiates warmth enough to keep you moving. You head southwest, knowing the southern marches lie that way, and Lothaire's court, should fate drag you full circle. But first you need a sanctuary where king's writs lose power. That map exists only in rumor. The Blight Lands, a lawless expanse where peat bogs swallow whole battalions and exiled magisters barter alchemy for teeth. Reach the Blight Lands, and even princes bargain cautiously. The horns fade, replaced by a nearer menace, baying hounds. You curse their nostrils, then note the wind's angle. If you can't outrun scent, corrupt it. Years ago, a falconer taught you to mask eagle chicks from stoats by rubbing them with crushed yarrow. You hack down winter brittle yarrow, grind leaves, smear the bitter paste beneath arms, between thighs, over the hollow wherein I once lived. The odor is acrid enough to make you gag. May it do the same to dogs. Still, hoofbeats drum nearer. A ravine splits the forest floor ahead, spanned by a lightning-felled birch bridging either lip. Beyond, steam curls from the mouth of a cave, a chance for cover or a trap wearing nature's face. You crawl the slick birch, balance wavering above darkness. Halfway across, riders burst into view behind you, 6 knights in griffin-red cloaks, hounds straining at leashes. An archer knocks an arrow. He looses. The shaft whistles past, shaving bark from the birch and your resolve in equal measure. You dive the last yard, roll beneath briars, and snake toward the cave. Inside, gloom swallows daylight. You creep until the entrance is a coin slit of white. Hounds reach the ravine, barking fury. Knights debate whether to cross the fragile trunk. 2 dismount, testing the birch with armored feet. Wood groans like an old man rising. A flint clicks behind you. You whirl, mirror shard poised. The cave isn't empty. A figure crouches by a tiny smokeless fire. A boy perhaps 18, hair shaved on one side in the style of itinerant surgeons, cheeks hollow with hunger. His left arm ends at the elbow, bound in ragged linen. In his right hand, he holds a flint and steel. Sparks dance between you. Easy, he whispers, voice raspy as parchment. I'm no friend of crimson cloaks. Move, you hiss or bleed. Bleed, he snorts. I've spilled enough to christen a cathedral. He tilts to reveal a satchel of glass phials. And I can spill more, yours, by breathing the wrong vapor. A bluff? Perhaps. But fumes tickle your throat. Vinegar, sulfur, something coppery. Outside, the birch snaps. A knight plummets, armor clanging against ravine rock. The cave echoes with his scream, then hush devours the sound. The remaining soldiers curse, retreat from the crumbling trunk. Time buys itself. You lower the shard a fraction. Name? Torin, he says. Apprentice to Master Rai of the Alchemic College, formerly. Now expelled for unorthodox experimentation. A crooked smile. And you are the Cyclops heiress who should be halfway to a wedding bed. The title slices deeper than the shard ever could. You know too much. I study cause and effect, Torin replies. The cause, embassy turmoil on Stonebridge this morning. The effect, you in my cave. He lifts a phial. Liquid inside shimmers emerald, then settles. We share a need, evasion. Your hunters will ride around, find another crossing. My teacher's agents also search these woods, to drag me back for trial. For what crime? He taps his stump. They said I turned my own arm to stone attempting philosopher's fire. Truth, I gifted it for knowledge. The college wants to call it heresy. I call it tuition. You glance at the phial. What's in that? Future mistakes. He pockets it. Choose, we travel together 5 leagues to the Blight lands, or die separately within the hour. Hounds bellow anew, distant but persistent. You weigh odds. Alone you possess fury and a glass knife. With Torin, you add chemicals and a mind unhinged enough to amputate itself. Allied madness sometimes topples thrones. Fine, you say. But if betrayal enters your thoughts? He interrupts, deadpan. I'm short a hand for dagger work. Relax. You scavenge the cave, stale rye loaf, 2 apples, a skin of brackish water. Torin stuffs phials into his satchel, hands you a cloak that smells of charcoal and sap. You pull it tight, hiding royal embroidery, hiding everything but the fire in your eye. Together you slip through a fissure at the cave's rear that opens onto a maze of limestone gullies veined with black moss. Torin leads, navigating by memory or madness, hard to tell. He pauses often to sprinkle gray dust that effervesces on snow, alchemical false tracks. Dogs will choke on this, he explains. Turns their noses into trumpets of mucus. You nod, grateful yet wary. Lessons from court return. Aid comes salted with agendas. What is Torin's? Survival, he claims. But survival is merely the first chapter in most betrayals. An hour later the forest slackens into a wind-skinned moor. Far across the heather, stone pillars loom, ancient boundary markers etched with spirals older than kingdoms. Torin spreads his arms. Welcome to the Blight lands. Law stops here, stories begin. A storm gathers in the west, black-bellied, veins of lightning pulsing like dragon hearts. Thunder's first growl vibrates your ribs. Rain will scour tracks, but also soak the marrow of your resolve. Beyond the pillars, peat bogs glisten, treacherous as court smiles. You step between 2 stones. For a breath, nothing changes. Then the air thrums, a tuning fork struck inside your skull. History whispers, here walked queens who spat in destiny's chalice. Here bled armies that dared pursue. The thought steals you. Torin's eyes widen as he rests his palm on a pillar. Feel that? The old alchemists said these stones store suffering like batteries. A wise traveler leaves some grief behind to lighten the load. Your lone eye reflects stormfire. I've no grief to spare, only debts. Lightning forks, spearing the moor with spears of white. In its glare you see shapes moving where no path exists. Robed figures gliding across bog water, lanterns glowing corpse blue. Torin grasps your arm. Blight Wardens. They barter passage for memories. Then tonight they'll feast, you murmur, thinking of a childhood severed, and I lost, a father's last stare. Plenty of memories to spend, or weaponize. The Wardens converge, their lanterns hissing with will-o'-the-wisp light. Rain begins, cold needles on exposed skin. Horns of royal pursuit fade at last, smothered by thunder, but you sense they'll return, harsher, better prepared. A warden lifts her hood, the scar-cheeked mercenary captain from the bridge, features painted ash pale, eyes now silver as coin. Recognition stabs. She smiles, predatory, inviting. Princess, apprentice, welcome. Trade your pain for safe conduct, and the marsh will keep your secrets. Torin tightens his grip on the emerald file. You tighten yours on glass shard and mirror-sliced destiny. The storm inhales. Rain hisses across the moor, turning peat into slick black glass. The Blight Wardens encircle you, lanterns bobbing on chains of bone that clack against rune-carved staves. Their leader, the scar-cheeked woman reborn in ash and silver, raises a palm. In that gesture is the certainty of tolls unpaid since the world was young. The air smells of ozone, wet iron, and something older, like parchment left too long inside a crypt. Your grief, she repeats, voice echoing as if spoken through water. One memory each. Give, and the marsh will bear you over its hungry places. Torin angles his stump behind him, protecting the satchel of files. You feel the heat of his tremor. Knowledge is his blood, and he'd rather bleed than barter it. But the wardens shift forward, feet never disturbing the mire. Their lantern flames coil into shapes of open mouths. Refuse, and this wet dusk becomes your sarcophagus. You consider offering a trivial recollection, sun-dappled corridors, a tutor's dull lecture. But instinct tells you the trade must hurt, or the blight will reject it like a weak sacrifice. Your fingers find the torn marriage writ inside your sash. Ink is bled into rain, but the jagged signature, Princess Elara, remains legible. A memory of shackles disguised as vows. You extend the parchment. The warden touches it with black-tipped nail. Instantly the paper crumbles to smoldering petals that swirl up and vanish into the storm. Pain lances your chest, sharp, surprising. For a heartbeat you cannot remember your father's face, only a crown floating in darkness. The warden's silver eyes soften, almost kindly. For you, she murmurs, passing a token, a small obsidian coin etched with twin spirals, cold as lunar shadow. Toss this in standing water, and the marsh will show you hidden veins of earth. Torin bites his lip. After a long, raw pause, he pulls a single phial from his satchel, clear liquid flecked with gold motes. Distillation of my first triumph, he says. I traded my arm to perfect it. The warden tips the phial into her lantern. The flame flares gold, then settles. Torin staggers. In his eyes blooms a sudden blank. He can no longer recall the formula. His loss tastes bitter on the air. The warden gives him a vial of thick indigo syrup. One drop in an enemy's ear, she intones, and their lies will rip themselves out through the throat. A horn keens far back on the forest edge, royal pursuit again, relentless. The warden steps aside, gesturing toward an unmarked stretch of bog. Walk straight. The ground will carry you. Lanterns gutter, figures recede into rain. You and Torin step onto the mire. Instead of sinking, you feel a subtle lifting, as though the earth exhales beneath each footfall, creating momentary islands of root-knotted turf. Lightning veins the horizon, carving silhouettes of twisted trees and distant tors. Every fourth stride you glance back. Hounds pace the fur line, baffled, unable to smell a road that breathes. The storms I passes overhead, thunder rolling like cannon salvos. Between peals you speak. What did you lose, you ask. Torin flexes his stump, face pallid. The process to transmute living bone into stone. Gone. But I kept the theory. A grim chuckle. They stole the map, not the compass. You weigh the obsidian coin in your palm. The memory of your father's face remains absent, a puzzle with its central piece burned. Strangely, relief bleeds in. Sometimes love must be amputated for the body to run. Hours later, the marsh hardens into rocky heath. Ruins crown a ridge ahead, a scorched abbey spire leaning like a snapped arrow against bruised sky. You and Torin climb, cloaks dripping. Inside the broken narthex, moonlight pools through holes in the vault, silvering charred beams. The smell is soot, wet stone, and desiccated incense, history's debris. You find a cloister wall plastered with fresco fragments, crowned women kneeling before a single-eyed goddess whose gaze blazes crimson. Prophecy etched in mortar. Torin traces the lines, whispering, Cyclopean queens surrender vision to see futures others can't. Coincidence? Your stomach knots. I surrendered nothing. The surgeons took. Maybe the surgeons serve the pattern, he says. Lightning flashes through the skeletal window, illuminating Latin script beneath the fresco. Unum oculum, unica vas. One eye, singular power. A floor tile shifts under your boot. You pry it up with the mirror shard. Beneath lies a hidden alcove cradling a leather folio, miraculously dry. Inside, inked diagrams of gears and bellows, formulas annotating somnus pyra, sleeping fire. A weapon? A cure? You can't know yet, but Lothair's name appears in crimson margin notes, underlined twice. The folio could alter everything. Torin's eyes flame with scholar's hunger. This is alchemy wedded to engineering, a soporific engine. Produce an aerosol that induces death-like slumber across a banquet hall. He looks at you, realization dawning. A bride could silence an entire court before the groom's toast. You picture Lothair's feasting chamber, crystal chandeliers, marble floors, tongues preserved in jars lining the walls. The idea of reducing that horror to dreaming bodies is intoxicating. But you shove the fantasy aside. First must come survival. A distant boom reverberates through the ruins. Cannon? No. Sky drums, Lothair's famed storm skiff, an alchemical airship rumored to ride thunder currents. Its searchlights rake clouds to the north, homing on heat plumes of cavalry fires. Pursuit has grown wings. We need shelter deeper than stone, you say. The ossuary below the abbey beckons, a staircase spiraling into dark where moldered saints lie. You descend, torches unlit, hands skimming damp walls. The air thickens with bone dust and old prayers. At bottom, you emerge into a vault-lined floor to ceiling with skulls mortared into grim mosaics, roses, chalices, griffins. A kingdom's lineage reduced to decor. You settle beneath a rib vault arch rainwater streams through cracks, pattering onto piles of femurs, a lullaby for the disinherited. Torin uncorks the indigo vial the warden gave him, sniffing. Smells of violets and vinegar. I almost believe her. Keep it sealed, you caution. Truth is heavier than steel. Drop too much and it crushes you. He studies you, the torn gown, the bruised wrists, the stubborn flame in your lone eye. Why fight to return, he asks. You could vanish here. Let kingdoms grind each other to dust. Because dust is the only crown my heirs would inherit. The words stun you. You hadn't realized you still claimed that future. If I must die, let it be rewriting the story they wrote for me. Above, the wind shifts, funneling voices through stairwell hollows, soldiers barking, orders echoing. They've reached the abbey. Torin douses a sudden torch flare with cloak. Footsteps crunch in the nave, shattered glass, fallen icons. A commander calls, split into pairs. The heretic and the princess are somewhere amid these bones. You and Torin press against a mural of skulled griffins. The obsidian coin pulses warmth and instruction. You flick it into a puddle. Ripples expand, reflected vault stones dissolve, replaced by a watery corridor beneath the ossuary. An illusion, no, a doorway. You clasp Torin's shoulder and plunge. The surface closes overhead. The puddle morphs to still stone just as boots clatter down the staircase. You fall not into water but into cool, lamplit air that smells of cedar smoke and ink. Before you stretches a hidden scriptorium, candles flickering over tables strewn with scrolls. Scribes in hooded robes look up, startled, quills paused mid-sentence. One steps forward, face shadowed, voice velvet and perilous. Princess Elara, he says, naming you without hesitation. We have been expecting the eye that sees futures. Behind you, Torin exhales a single awestruck word, archivists. The scriptorium doors slam of their own accord, sealing the vault above like a tomb. Scrolls rustle, hundreds of whispered rumors waking. Outside, steel boots scour stone, but here, a hush as potent as any spear holds dominion. The archivist bows, extending a weathered parchment sealed with black wax. Your insignia, a one-eyed crown, stamps the seal, though you have never wielded such a crest. The room tilts, questions stacking like blades. The parchment trembles in your hand, warm as if torn from living flesh. Black wax beads glisten like midnight tears around the crest you have never seen, an eye crowned by thorns. Beneath the seal, tiny vowels writhe, rearranging themselves into your mother's own looping script, a script you watched fade from her letters years before she died. The air thickens with rose oil memory you thought the warden devoured. A question surfaces, ice sharp. How did a dead queen sign a letter you never wrote? Before you can voice it, the lead archivist slides back his hood. Candlelight exposes skin the color of old parchment and irises bleached to pearlescent white, blind, yet somehow he watches you. I am Curator Velen, he murmurs, keeper of the unwritten accounts. Your arrival fulfills Codex Shadowleaf, verse 14. Torin scans the vaulted ceiling, eyes jittering over frescoes of comet-eyed monarchs birthing cities from their mouths. Codex Shadowleaf was burned in the siege of Cataclysm, he whispers. All copies lost. Velen smiles, revealing teeth filed to scholars' points. All but the one tattooed inside my skull. He taps his temple, the sound echoes like knuckles on a coffin lid. 3 robed acolytes drift forward. Each bears a silver basin steaming with violet vapor. The scent, lavender cut by faint copper, coils into your nostrils, reminding you of the hospice where plague victims waited for ferrymen of light. Velen gestures. Place the letter in the basin. Ink forged in living blood must be read through mist of dreaming steel. You hesitate. Shadows flicker behind stacked scrolls. One moves differently, too fluid, too tall. Torin notices too. His hand ghosts over his satchel. He whispers, one of them, not archivist. You taste his fear, metallic as the blood still crusted under your nails. New sensory jolt, the distant clatter of boots above the sealed vault. Pursuit has entered the ossuary. Stones grind. They have found the hidden stairwell. Velen remains calm, chanting in a tongue older than Vetterwick. The acolytes raise their basins. Mist folds around you, cold silk licking your cheeks, seeping into the hollow of your missing eye. Images ignite, a grand hall drowned in scarlet draperies. Lothair sprawled across his throne, throat opened like a cracked pomegranate. Your father kneeling, crown broken, sobbing into blood-spattered hands. Behind them marches a legion of faceless soldiers bearing banners marked not with griffins nor butcher's blades, but with the crowned eye. Your crest, ruling over ruin. You stagger, smashing into Torin. The vision shatters, replaced by Velen's whisper. Possible futures are shards. Choose the one you can wield without slitting your own soul. A crash booms over your heads, iron rams battering the sealed doors. Dust drifts from rafters like ash snow. The unseen tall figure flits closer, cloak brushing scroll racks. Torin flings a glance, his eyes flare with recognition. That's no archivist, that's Zoran the Inquisitor. The name rings court rumors. A royal interrogator who vanished after stealing experimental powders from the alchemic college. Stories claimed he could coax confessions from gargoyles. A low hum rises as he draws twin glass daggers filled with swirling chartreuse fumes. Princess, he croons, voice all honeyed rot. The king begs your safe return. Hand over the traitor boy and the codex, and we end this gently. Velen's body tenses. Acolytes spill vapor across the floor, crafting a crawling fog. You whip out the mirror shard, light glinting slit thin. 3 paragraphs, new twist. Thunder explodes again, but this time it's indoors. Torin has hurled a file. Glass bursts midair, birthing a blossom of blinding white fire that sucks breath from lungs. Scrolls ignite, shadows dance manic. In the strobing glare you seize Velen's sleeve. There's a rear exit? A scriptorium of secrets never builds only one door. He motions to a half-concealed arch where skull-shaped torches flicker green. Together you sprint, Torin limping behind, fumes trailing like wounded spirits. Zoran pursues, glass daggers carving streaks of toxic chartreuse through the veil of smoke. One acolyte tries to bar him, a dagger flashes, the acolyte crumples, skin blotching emerald as lies tear free from his throat in wordless ribbons. The indigo truth poison, it works. The corridor narrows into a spiral stair cut from blue basalt, slick with condensation. Each step echoes a heartbeat. Halfway down, Velen slaps a sigil etched in the wall. Gears grind, a slab of basalt slides, revealing a shaft flooded with pitch darkness and cool moist wind. The librarian's lung, he pants. A chimney that exhales beneath the valley ruin. You peer into the void. How far down? Far enough that falling kills tyrants. His smile returns eerie. But steps exist, if you know where to place your weight. Torin touches your arm, voice hoarse. We jump or we burn. Glass shatters above, Zoran smashing forgotten files to spawn green fireballs. Heat licks the stairwell. Decision knives you. Stay and fight with mirror shard versus poison daggers, or drop into history's throat trusting invisible steps. New question introduced. You clutch Torin's stump with one hand and Velen's sleeve with the other. Step where I step, Velen instructs, then pivots and walks into the shaft, vanishing like ink into water. Your pulse convulses. You follow. Foot meets nothing. Then a hidden iron rung bites boot leather. Another. Invisible lattice half in, half out of the stone. Torchlight floods behind. Zoran looms, wind whipping his cloak into vulture wings. He hurls a dagger. Chartreuse vapor screams toward you. Reflex, you fling the obsidian coin. Metal meets glass midair. Both explode in a rain of rainbow shards that fizzle into sparks. The distraction buys 3 heartbeats, enough to descend past the reach of his blade. Velen mutters code words. Above, the slab grinds closed. Darkness clamps. Only the soft blue glow of lichens veins the rungs. The shaft breathes, tidal, cool and damp. One wrong step, eternal fall. Minutes or eternities. Later, the wall opens onto a cavern mouth overlooking the valley. Moonlight washes ragged hills. Far below, a ruined aqueduct snakes toward a lake shimmering like mercury. Velen inhales night air, triumphant. The pursuit will burn the scriptorium, but they cannot erase records we carry. He taps the sealed folio you rescued. Within lie recipes to fell a court without spilling blood, if that is your wish, or to crown a queen who sees with one eye but rules with thousands. A crisp breeze carries far-off horns, Lothair's storm skiff cruising, its spotlights combing slopes. You have hours, not days. Torin sets his jaw. Give me a day, a furnace, and the folio, and I can brew somnus pyra. Gas enough to lull a banquet hall into faux death. Velen adds, the archivist can smuggle you into Lothair's masquerade next fortnight. The warden captain owes us passage through rebel lines. The pieces align, only you decide the pattern. You stare at the valley, thoughts thrumming like hive wings. Poison a court, save a kingdom? Usurp a father, avert war? Or torch every board of this game and vanish where no prophecy can reach? Lightning forks behind the mountains, silhouetting the storm skiff, a metal leviathan bristling with alchemical cannons. Your future circles overhead, a vulture impatient for carrion. You breathe cold moonlit air into the hollow behind your lost eye and feel, for the first time, not emptiness but possibility. The night waits for your move. Dawn bruises the valley in shades of gunmetal and rose as you, Torin, and Curator Velen pick your way down a goat track slick with moss. Every footstep cracks frozen heather. Every exhale ghosts the air with fog, as though the land itself mutters secrets you're too hurried to hear. By mid-morning you reach the shattered aqueduct. Torin scrambles up a pillar veined with ivy, finds a stone-sealed culvert, and pries it open. Inside lies a crawl space that stinks of bat guano and damp limestone, the forgotten artery that once sluiced water to Lothair's summer palace. Now it will carry weapon, not water. Torin unrolls the folio across an overturned barrel. Glyphs shimmer as sunlight brushes the parchment, formulae revealing themselves like bruises beneath skin. He traces a looped sigil, bellows feeding crucible, and says, we need sulfur, dreamroot pollen, powdered opal, and brass gears fine as moth wings. Velen nods, producing a ring of iron keys. Everything the archivists confiscate, we catalog. Call it providence. While Torin digs through crates, Velen hands you a cloak of midnight velvet stitched with mirrors the size of thumbnails. Blight Wardens weave these, he explains. Each glass catches a lie before it reaches the wearer. At court, where falsehoods swarm like flies, you'll move unseen. Slipping it on, you feel weightless, as though each shard subtracts a burden of expectation. A distant whine splits the sky, the storm skiff circling, raining spotlights that comb the valley floor. Velen mutters and smears ash across the aqueduct stones, veins of etherrune flare bending light, draping you 3 in shimmering camouflage. The ship's beams lick past, baffled. Inside the culvert, Torin builds a squat furnace of brick and bronze. Alchemical flames bloom blue-white, smelling of lightning and cut apples. He works one-handed yet deft, pouring liquefied sulfur through glass serpents, milling opal dust with pestle and stump. Each motion is ritual, each hiss of vented gas sings omen. You grind dreamroot pollen between your palms, its grains glow faint lavender, staining skin like twilight bruises. When mixed, sulfur seeds to pollen, heat bends to intention, and a milky vapor rolls inside the reaction chamber, thicker than prayer. Hours pass in feverish focus. Velen scripts glyphs of containment around the chamber, ink made from squid sepia and widow's tears. You test the bellows, leather lungs that will force Somnus Pyra through hidden flues when the moment arrives. The device is no bigger than a travel chest, yet Torin swears it can flood a throne room in 30 heartbeats. He seals the final joint with molten tin, then slumps, sweat silvering his hair. 1 dose, he rasps. No misfires. No antidote. You feel the mirror shard warm against your ribs, as if sensing the birth of its grander sibling, a gas that grants living death. Suddenly the weight of choice anchors you. Put the court to sleep, and you buy hours, maybe days, to rewrite treaties. But if even one sleeper fails to wake, whispers will pronounce you regicide. Nightfall brings the warden captain, Scarcheek now crossed with a new stitched cut, riding a marsh pony the color of rust. She dismounts, tosses you a bundle, silk gown dyed obsidian, mask of onyx feathers, and gloves laced with silver thread. Masquerade invitations, she says. Prince Lothair celebrates the Feast of Tongues in 3 nights. Palace kitchens hire extra servers. Archivists forged you papers as a wine steward. Your cloak's mirrors will cloud your face to anyone looking too long. Torin passes her a vial of translucent green. In exchange, breathing filter. A drop on cloth blocks Somnus Pyra for 10 breaths. She pockets it, satisfied. Allies' debts, the ledger grows. You practice the infiltration route. Crawl space to cistern, cistern to baker's corridor, corridor to banquet hall's mezzanine. Velen sketches a floor plan. Chandeliers like drunken constellations, air vents disguised as cherub mouths, thrones raised on dais of sardonyx. Lothair presides front and center, flanked by jars of preserved tongues, grim trophies that remind each envoy to measure words. The plan: during the 4th toast, when music swells, you will the wine cart beneath the grand organ's pipes. Torin's device hides in a false cask. You pull a valve, bellows pump. Somnus Pyra rides the organ's ducts, spills into chandeliers, drifts down like scented snow. Within 30 heartbeats, stillness. Then you claim the throne long enough to dictate surrender terms via Velen's quills, seal them with royal rings pried from sleeping fingers, and vanish before lungs stir. Yet a snag. Lothair's storm skiff docks atop the palace spire, and its alchemists test air constantly, fearing poison. Torin proposes a decoy. Ignite a flash powder blaze in the kitchens, drawing the testers away. But if flames spread, innocents burn. How many strangers' lives are chips you can wager? Sleep evades you that night. Beneath a tarp of tattered banners you stare at the stars, seeing not constellations but chess pieces. The king, your father, stands 2 squares from check. The butcher prince looms. The archivist bishop moves sideways through history. The alchemist knight leaps in L-shaped risks. And you, the one-eyed queen, can glide any direction but never escape the board. Muscle memory guides your hand to the vacant socket. You press until dull ache floods skull, a reminder that emptiness can be fertile soil. In the darkness, a question takes root. What if I end every throne rather than seize one? Somnus Pyra could slumber an entire continent if scaled. Velen's archives hold the maps. Torin craves the experiment. But mankind learned long ago that weapons evolve faster than wisdom. At dawn you wash grime from your hands in a rivulet. Water mirrors a face both familiar and strange, single eye ringed by sleepless shadows, but in those depths flickers something neither fear nor rage, momentum. The moment you choose a future, the world will tilt. Physics of power demand it. You return to camp where Torin tightens valve screws, Velen copies royal seals in wax molds, and the warden captain sharpens a dagger carved from bog iron. They look up, awaiting verdict. Do you unleash a gas that fells despots yet spares innocence, or do you hunt a sharper blade that cuts deeper but cleaner? Your voice sounds older than 16 winters. We follow the plan, but we add a second act. While the court sleeps, we destroy the jars of tongues, rip out the fear they feast on. When they wake, they will speak unburdened. Let words overthrow empires, not poison. Torin blinks, surprised. Velen's blind eyes gleam approval. The captain smirks. Merciful revolt. That'll rattle songs into bards' throats. She flicks bloodrust off her blade. Just be sure mercy doesn't dull your strike. 3 nights remain. Every tick of the pocket chronograph Velen sets on a stone feels like a heartbeat sprinting toward collision. Across the valley, palace windows ignite sunset gold, each glint a mouth waiting for your chosen truth. High overhead, the storm skiff circles like a chained thundercloud, its cannons glowing indigo. Somewhere within those iron guts, engineers calibrate horrors to deploy if the banquet goes wrong. But horrors are merely the shadows of imaginations like yours. Imagination sharpened by loss, polished by vengeance, guided now by something rarer, resolve. You wrap the midnight cloak around your shoulders. Mirror shards catch last light, scattering it into the dusk like seeds. Tomorrow, you breach a palace of monsters to sow a different night. Silk-clad revelers swirl beneath chandeliers that drip candle wax like slow tears. Laughter echoes off marble. Clinking goblets ring above mandolin trills. No one notices the new wine steward wheeling a honey-oak cart toward the mezzanine's shadowed niche. Mask of onyx feathers hides your face. Midnight mirror cloak swallows your shape. Reflecting courtiers lies back into their eyes, so they glance away, unnerved, before curiosity can bloom. Across the banquet hall, Prince Lothair lounges on a sardonyx dais. Tall, leonine, he wears a torque of preserved tongues braided into gold wire, each one a treaty sealed in terror. He raises a glass, pale wine beads on his lip like venom. Next to him sits your father, crown repaired, gaze vacant with exhaustion and guilt. A hush falls as Lothair taps a silver gong. Tonight, he purrs, we drink to obedience. Servants pour, minstrels strike a triumphant chord, the cue you rehearsed. You slide 2 copper valves. Hidden bellows exhale somnus pyra through cherub vents tucked high in the organ's pipes. Milky vapor streams along carved angels, spills over balcony rails, drifts downward in spiraling veils. Mandolin notes quaver, then fade as players slump. Goblets shatter from lax fingers. 1 heartbeat, 2:30 silence. The only motion, candle flames wavering in a draft of destiny. You pull a breathing rag soaked in Tauren's filter across mouth and nose. Warden Captain slips from behind a curtain, dagger ready. Together you pace the frozen court, statues of silk and flesh caught in pre-death tableau. The air tastes of lavender dust and possibility. Tauren emerges from servant passage, lugging satchel. He smashes the first specimen jar, brine and shriveled tongue splash marble. Another, glass chords ringing through hush. When the last tongue hits the floor, you feel an almost physical wind of relief, as if souls exhale after centuries of holding breath. At the dais you kneel beside your father. His eyes flutter beneath lids, lashes tremble. He looks heartbreakingly young, stripped of sternness. You press your palm to his cheek, warm, alive. Words choke you, clogged by years of duty's barbs. No apology can cross this gulf. Instead you unlatch his signet ring. Lothair sprawls like a felled oak, mouth agape. You take his signet too, then tug the torque of tongues from his neck and fling it into a brazier where it sizzles, fat popping, stench of tyranny burning. Velen appears, parchment ready. You place rings upon wax, impress new decrees. Border armies withdrawn, betrothal nullified, reparations to war-scorched villages, alchemical research returned to civic halls. You sign Elara, regent ad interim. Velen sprinkles quick-drying salt. Ink sets like prophecy fossilizing. Time, Tauren whispers. Gas will thin, sleepers stir within minutes. The plan's final step, depart unseen through cistern tunnel. Let decrees stand unchallenged by public conscience awakened to a night of shared helplessness. Yet when you look back at torchlit hall, fallen prince, broken tongues, crowd drooped like wilted flowers, you feel no triumph, only eerie calm before a storm you cannot outpace. Because above, the storm skiff's engines thunder to life. Lothair's alchemists monitor ballroom air. The moment their instruments spike, protocols trigger. You sense vibration through stone, the ship's ventral hatches yawning, priming gloomfire capsules rumored to scorch thought from bone. The palace walls begin to hum. A high scream, metal, not human, cuts the night. Tauren's face drains color. They're purging contamination. You sprint to balcony doors, fling them open. Far overhead, the skiff's belly glows sickly chartreuse. Capsules tumble like malignant stars. 1 breath left for choices. Run, the captain yells, shoving you toward service stairs. But your gaze hits the organ pipes, bronze throats still fogged with somnus pyra. A reckless idea ignites. Pipe the remaining gas skyward, meeting gloomfire midair. 2 toxins may neutralize, create harmless ash. Or magnify into apocalypse. There's no time for counsel. You vault onto mezzanine rail, scramble along gilded cornice to the organ loft. Fingers fly over levers Tauren taught you. Reverse bellows, open roof flues. Vapor surges up pipes, bursts from gargoyle vents along the ridge beam, rising like pale ghosts toward incoming capsules. Heartbeats stretch into eternities. First contact, a hiss, flash of emerald lightning, shockwave that rattles stained glass saints. In the split-second hush after, you hear rain, soft, gray, merciful. Ash, not acid. Capsules dissolve to harmless flakes, drifting like first snow. Below, torn whoops, veil torn by grin. Yet victory's taste sours instantly, roof beams groan. The organ's backdrafted bellows overheat, bronze turns cherry red. A weld pops, scalding steam erupts, flaying skin from your arms. You stagger, sleeve aflame. The mezzanine tilts, support splitting under thermal strain. You could leap, maybe survive broken ribs. But beneath, hundreds of slumbering bodies litter marble. Fall wrong and you'll crush them, fall right and debris will. Choice corners you one final time. You hook cloak's mirrors over a girder, anchoring yourself amid firestorm. Mirrors shatter, exploding prisms through smoke, a constellation of shrapnel that sings as it falls. Each shard catches torchlight, scattering across sleepers' faces, planting seeds of future myths. A one-eyed angel blazing above ruin. Heat sears lungs. Breath becomes knives. Yet amidst agony, clarity. Freedom was never for you. Freedom is your absence, space you carve so others breathe. You drive the last valve wide. All remaining somnus pyra whooshes skyward, cushioning collapsing roof as organ bursts. Timbers rain but flame snuffs and vapors chill. Below, no bodies stir, sleep holds them safe. The girder buckles. You hang by scorched fingertips. Far below, Torrin stands, face horror-struck. You mouth, guard them. His tears glint. A final memory rises, mother's lullaby about stars that guide lost sailors. You imagine her voice mingled with wind coursing through the shattered roof. The thought cradles you as metal snaps. You fall like a spent spark, mirrors trailing. I fixed on the dark where dawn will surface. Time slows, mercy stretches, then marble rushes up. Impact blooms red, petals of royal blood fanning across the floor where tongues lie liberated. Silence returns, dense as centuries. Outside, palace horns blare in panic, snuffed by ash snow. Inside, sleepers breathe, unharmed, seeds of new order germinating in collective dream. Torrin staggers to your side, presses fingers to your throat. Nothing. He bows, stump-brushing forehead, and slips your mirror shard into your palm, closing fingers round it like a reliquary of defiance. First bodies stir. Eyes flutter open, seeing a hall scorched yet unbroken, a tyrant unthroned, a princess fallen. In that hush, an unspoken vow threads courtiers together. Remember her not as Cyclops' heiress, but as the eye that stayed open so a kingdom might wake. Above the broken roof, dawn ignites, flooding marble with rose-gold light that pools around your still form, soft, almost tender, as if the sun itself kneels to whisper a eulogy only stone can hear.